Hey y'all, so in the last video I was talking about the sort of what's going on in science and how it's a little bit broken, especially related to grant writing and so on, and talking about the next generation. So I want to follow up with something that actually relates to this river right here that you can see. Such a beautiful place, and it comes out of a lake. And recently there was a discussion related to this lake about using herbicides, treating the lake with herbicides to kill an invasive species of milfoil. And I'm not a fan, not even in the least. I get the point that this invasive species is a problem. And locally, they've tried other solutions like manual extraction of the milfoil to get rid of it. And by the way, I'm going somewhere with this that relates back to science and grants and all of that. So they've tried this. They've tried removing the milfoil by hand, and it's just too expensive, too time consuming, too slow. And they're looking for other options. And so they held a public hearing, and a bunch of people spoke up against the use of herbicides. I wasn't there. I wasn't involved in that. I just learned about this whole thing recently. And they said, okay, we'll put that on pause for now, but next year we're going to really probably go ahead and use herbicides in the lake against milfoil. And this is just endemic of a problem that our culture has, but that also science has, of looking at pieces in isolation. So sure, we can go in and treat the milfoil with that herbicide, but just downstream of this lake is another lake that has all sorts of, it's been getting more and more toxic algae blooms. It's actually a reservoir that's downstream, and it's been getting more and more toxic algae blooms and having other problems. We treat each little piece independently. Oh, I've got this problem here. Let me kill that thing and just eliminate that one thing, and then it will solve everything else. It reminds me of my dentistry. I'll be honest, my dentistry has been a mess for my whole life. Maybe because I grew up in a place without fluoride or something, but it's an ongoing fun thing. And I went through a phase where my dentist was strongly recommending hypochlorite, I think, based solution rinse every day. And it was awful tasting, and I didn't feel good after using that. And eventually I asked the dentist, I'm like, okay, so you're telling me to take this rinse that kills everything, but isn't there like a community in the mouth? And he said, yeah, and he's a science-oriented guy, so that's cool. So he's like, yeah, there's some emerging evidence on microbial communities in the mouth and how they really get out of balance with certain more negative bacteria. I think S. mutans or strep mutans or one of those that really is bad and causes a lot of the problems, and not only in the teeth, but systemically in other places. And so I said, well, are there any like probiotics for this? And he's like, oh yeah, they're starting to come out with those. So I'm like, okay, at least people are starting to think about that after years of just like, let's kill everything. Let's get rid of the bad things, and who cares about getting rid of the good things? But have you ever noticed, like in pest control, that at least I've read that in certain cases, that if you go into a house and kill everything with pesticides, yeah, okay, you get rid of the problem temporarily, and some problems are so bad, like if there are bed bugs, you want to get rid of everything. There's just nothing else you can do sometimes. But on the other hand, spiders live in a natural balance with so many other pests. And, I know that people don't like spiders. I'm not a big fan of spiders crawling around near me, but I'm not like freaked out by them, but it's just not my favorite thing, really. I get that desire. But what's been shown is that often when you treat in that way, you actually send the system out of balance, and you open yourself up to further infestations of whatever the pest is later, because any predators they had have also been eliminated. I think we do that in our mouths. I think we do that. They're at risk of doing that in this lake. That, yes, the herbicide will kill this one bad thing, but who knows what else it will throw out of balance in this beautiful pristine lake that's upstream, that's a natural glacier-formed deep lake. What else is in there? They have no idea. They're just like, we got this one problem, we're going to just do that. And though this is a cultural problem, I, in some sense, blame science too, because I'm sure there are scientists who've studied like milfoil, but are there scientists who've studied milfoil and related kinds of things in the context of the whole ecology of the lake? Probably not, because ecology is over there in some different department, and they're part of some department that I don't even know what the department that is. Aquatic, maybe it's aquatic ecology or aquatic biology or some aquatic botany, who knows? But the point is that, I'm sure there are people who've studied it, but how many of those have actually been supported or encouraged to or in any way pursued this idea of looking at the balance between all of the different aquatic species and what is it that gets out of balance such that milfoil can come in and so easily take over? And if we could figure out what that is, like why couldn't we withdraw or remove something that's essential for milfoil's survival and sort of starve it out or outcompete it with something that's native and more healthy, rather than just let's wipe everything out and hope that it's all okay. It's like the pray and hope method. And our science, like as advanced as we've become in so many ways, we're just really often ignorant about this. I mean, I'm super glad that the microbiome studies are moving, but I was talking to a client just the other day who works in a certain area of microbiome studies, and in terms of that, in their area, they use a microbiome classification based on exactly five types of bacteria that are present in that area of the body. And I'm just trying to be a little bit vague here to not give the person away. So they have a system of classification based on just 5 types of bacteria. That's it. What about the fungi? What about the other bacteria? What about the viruses? Who knows? Protozoans. Or maybe not protozoans, but archaea. What about archaea? We treat diseases like we think we're so advanced because we have these tools that can look at so much stuff, but our thinking isn't advanced. Yes, the tools are, but the thinking has not advanced with the tools quite often, where we're actually like looking at the system as a whole. And I know, like, systems biology, it's this trendy term for 20 years now or so, but has it really panned out in the way that it has produced things, solutions that the world out there could use for problems like the milfoil problem that they've been having? No. So there's this disconnect between this hypey thing called systems biology and actually putting this into real practice of like solving problems people actually care about. So it connects back to grant writing and just science careers in general. Like, I've been talking about how important it is to have great ideas at the heart of your grant proposal. But it's not only it has to be a great idea, it has to be an idea that your community of peers who review it are going to get excited about. And the problem is that still there's not enough excitement about really finding solutions that are going to matter in the bigger picture to the world. The field can get excited about, things that will advance one little niche problem in the field, and reviewers will get excited about that. Ooh, you're going to solve that one little problem that we've all been trying to solve. But maybe that one little problem is in the whole different category of problems than what we actually need to solve the bigger problem overall. And sometimes it can take years or decades for the field to catch up with, like, oh, we should actually be paying attention to this other thing over here. As I've talked about the idea of really trying to encourage the next generation of scientists to do things better, to do things differently than these previous generations have done, this is one of the areas that I so strongly encourage the next generation to think about. To think about, I guess, 2 things. One thing is thinking about, how is your work really going to impact? Is it really going to help people? in some concrete way, solve real problems, because the world has plenty of problems right now. And I think one of the reasons science isn't as popular as we would hope right now is because science has become too self-absorbed, too like scientists talking to other scientists and solving other scientists' problems rather than the scientists, and then competing against each other to see who can be the first to solve that little problem in the field, rather than looking at that bigger picture and saying, how can we get together and really, truly work together rather than just egos competing against other egos? How can we get together to solve those problems? How can we do that? That's so important. So that's one point. Let's see if I can remember the other point. I think it's really that, coming back to even our grants, our funding so much determines, so much shapes the direction of things. And right now it's out of control. It's weird. It's bizarre. It's messed up. And I don't have much hope for change of that in the very short term. But eventually, I'm hoping, praying, whatever you want to call it, sending vibes out to the universe that it will someday change. And once it changes, I really hope that we will rebuild in a way that really pays attention to what's going on out there in the world more, and really cares about finding solutions for real people and real problems rather than only just abstract things. There's room for theoretical science. I'm not saying we should abandon all theoretical science. There's some that's definitely worth doing, and I think we should support some of that. But there's so much science that goes on that's kind of like, people just beating one little narrow subject to death with tons and tons of funding just because it's in vogue, and then everything else gets left by the wayside. And that's just got to stop. It sucks. It's not helping the outer society, and therefore society, seeing that we're not helping sometimes in many areas, such as this problem, like where scientists should be able to come in and actually come up with real solutions, instead of just like, oh, let's pour some herbicide on it and kill everything and see what happens. Maybe that will solve our problem. Stupidest thing ever. So let's do better. This is a call for us to do better. We need to do better. We have to do better. And the good news is that we can do better. And with the next generation, I'm hoping that you will actually hear the call and do better.